Hi, everybody, and welcome to the European Vegan Summit 2025. Great to have you all with us. I hope you're here at the correct session, which is all about food education. Just to recap, we're going to be exploring on this panel the critical role of food education in shaping the way we eat, think, and act. In an age of complex supply chains, aggressive marketing, and ever-changing health advice, understanding what's on our plates has never been more vital. Just to introduce myself, I'm Colette Fox from ProVeg International, and I'm our public food lead, and I'll be moderating this panel this evening. And I'd like to introduce our 5 amazing power women who are joining. So we'll go from the top. We have Valentina Taglietti. Valentina leads the Sustainable Food Department at Acere Animali, promoting plant-based diets through campaigns like Veganuary. She developed Meno per più and Mense per il clima to help canteens become more plant-based and climate-friendly. In 2024, she launched the University Caterer ranking, included in Italy's national guidelines. Next, we have Maša Blaznik. Maša is a psychologist and founder of the Empathy-Based Society Institute in Slovenia. She works at the intersection of psychology, social change, and systems transformation, promoting empathy as a practical tool for personal and societal well-being. Welcome, Maša, to our panel. Do we have Emily? Not yet. We'll move forwards. We will have Emily Angus, who is a registered dietitian working for the Vegan Society in the UK, who has a professional background in vegan nutrition, research and renal dietetics. Her current role includes developing evidence-based nutrition resources, providing educational sessions on plant-based nutrition, and responding to queries relating to vegan diets from the public and other healthcare professionals. We also have with us Lorena Mucke, who is the founder and CEO of the Educated Choices Programme, which is a global nonprofit focused on how food choices impact human and planetary health. With 16 years of experience, Lorena has led the programme's international expansion and partnerships. Welcome today, Lorena. And last but not least, we have Nadia Tonoli, who is the Food Policy Officer for the municipality of Bergamo. With a background in European environmental projects, she now focuses on food policy. Through the Food Trails project, she launched the Good Canteen pilot to promote plant-based meals in schools, and she currently works to expand green menus across canteens, bars and restaurants to support healthy, sustainable diets in Bergamo. So welcome, Nadia. Hopefully Emily will join us. That would be great, but we'll kick off. I've got the opening question, which is to all of you, and then we'll dig into some bespoke questions for each of our panelists, and we'll have time at the end, hopefully 10 to 15 minutes for everybody who's joined us this evening to ask any questions, but please feel free to pop those in the chat in the meantime. So the opening question is, with so many competing messages around food, health and sustainability, how can we ensure that people, especially younger generations, have access to clear, reliable and empowering information about what they eat? Valentina, would you like to kick us off?
Hi everyone, and thank you, Colette, for the perfect presentation. And I think that people should be engaged at a very young age, as you said, preferably at school, with targeted programs taking place in both classrooms and canteens. And the more participation, the better. I think maybe Nadia Tonoli will have a lot to say about that. And with that said, with young adults, I think we have less resources. It's a completely different scenario. Behavioral science shows us that people don't change their habits because of rule or information. They change their habits when they feel part of a shared movement. Real empowerment comes from belonging, and I think that's the reason why we are all here today. And like when food choices are framed not as only as individual choices, but as a way to join a community effort to create something bigger for health, climate, social, and animal justice. So I think this could be the key. And this sense of community, of course, it starts in small groups where people are bound to each other, and then common rituals like meat-free days are great to connect those groups, and they allow individuals to feel part of something bigger. And of course, communication plays a big role in that because people see that their small efforts are contributing to a collective success. So this is my my take about this question.
Thank you so much, Valentina. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with lots of what you've said. And yeah, the small things make the big difference. Maja, would you like to go next and give us your response?
Yes, thank you, Colette, for introduction, and hello, everybody. Yes, I agree. I agree that schools should be on the front line of providing young people with the latest accurate information on this topic, together with to give them the practical experience, what it means a healthy food choice in school canteens, all of which my excellent co-panelists are already active in. The other thing I see as a problematic generally in society is that we are anthropocentric society. We look at everything from the perspective that we humans are the center of everything and all other beings and ecosystems are below us. And in that way, we communicate also about food. We communicate how is this food beneficial to my health? How is it beneficial to the taste? How is it beneficial in the context of profit? And that's why I think if we really want to make a real shift, we need to shift from anthropocentric perspective into ecocentric perspective, where all members of ecosystem are equal partners. And in that context, also food becomes a point of connection between people, farmers, animals, plants, ecosystems. And some schools already offer programs with this experiential connection, but I think it should become a mainstream in schools, like Valentina also suggested. And there is another thing that I would like to mention is that we need to meet young people at where they are. And right now they are on social media, they're online all the time. And these spaces prefer to get viral than to be accurate. And regardless, I think that we need to meet them there. But I don't mean that only in digital sense, but also in developmental, psychological sense, that we just see which stories, which talk to them, what is like authentic to them, and then incorporate all this information that we want to convey to them through this type of content. Thank you.
Thank you, Maja. I think we don't have Emily yet, so we'll move to Lorena. Would you like to give your take on the question, Lorena, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Colette. I agree, of course. I think education should be centered around the institutions where kids learn on a day-to-day basis, and also online. This is one of the reasons why our program, from going with boots on the ground, we decided to go completely digital, because kids spend a lot of time online. But of course, kids are very smart. So if what we impart, the knowledge that we share with them is not accurate, or we're exaggerating facts, I think they can fact check us in no time. So it's a responsibility of ours, educators, to be very truthful, to recognize our failures, to learn what ticks our audiences, right? Are they more interested in health or the environment? What about their teachers? And very importantly, it needs to be free. Food education is a right. There should not be a charge for it. And I think that educators should be also trained to impart such education. So if we're talking about schools, I would love to see continuing this kind of education, not as an ideology, but science-based, evidence-based, because then it changes as we evolve. And I think the role of education is that, right, is to create critical thinking, invite discussion in order to create progress. And the only way to do it is by inviting everyone to the table, right? There's no the good guys and the bad guys, because we're in this boat together. And kids know that. So when Valentina mentioned that change is not about the individual, but about the community, I wholeheartedly agree. We can educate one kid, but if that kid does not belong, that he or she or they are part of a greater movement, we have a much lower chance for them to develop those skills and then pass them on. One thing that we've learned through our program is that when kids absorb new information, they tend to share it with at least 15 other people. And that's the incredible ripple effect of education. So I think we need to ride that momentum and to collaborate with institutions so they know the tools to impart this education from any perspective that may fit them better. For example, a PE coach, a physical education coach, could come from the fitness and health perspective. A science educator could come from the environmental perspective, etc. So I think there's a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of tools in our repertoire too.
Thank you so much, Lorena. Yeah, children are very powerful little creatures for getting this change to happen. We'll move to Nadia next, if that's okay, Nadia. Okay. Do you want to let us know what your thoughts are?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. For the Bergamo municipality, the goal is to transform healthy and sustainable eating from the lesson into habits. For reach this goal, Bergamo municipality thanks to the European funds, implemented a great project named Green Menu. With this menu, we introduce every week one plant-based menu in all levels of school, from kindergarten to the secondary school. But we support this introduction with an holistic approach to education. We organize many workshops for students. They taste, play with beans and the other ingredients they find also in the menus. They visit the farmers, the local farmers. Also, we propose the training for teachers, the training for school canteens committees, and also we involve the parents in the info days to taste, to learn how it is possible to cook the same dishes that their child find and eat in the school canteens. And also we change our tender because we increase the criteria about organic and local food. And also we organize many training for kitchen staff and chef, because it is important they change their way to cook the dishes. For us, it is our key factor to become a success, because now this project is not a pilot, but it is an ordinary action for our school. Every week we have 1 day plant-based menu. It is, for us, it's a big result. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadia. I love that it's just becoming completely normal in Bergamo. That's great. I think we're missing Emily still, so we will move on to our main questions for everybody. So Valentina, you are first. So you combine food education with public policy. I'm interested in what lessons have emerged from projects like Mense per il Clima and the University Catering ranking about effectively promoting plant-based diets in institutional settings.
Thank you so much for the question. And all right, with the ranking, we assessed the menus of Italian university canteens based on the presence of plant-based dishes. So the more plant-based options, the higher the score. This was our rule. And our ranking was very well received and sparked a national level debate. And at the end of the process, what we learned is that choosing to highlight the best practices that were already in charge in some universities, rather than focusing on the gaps, allowed us to keep the ranking positive and constructive. And in some way, it fostered a good competition between the canteens. And it also led to a change, actually, because in less than 1 year, many menus changed in a plant-based way. So you have to know that in Italy, less than 50% of universities had a plant-based main course every day. So it was like impossible to eat plant-based in Italian canteens. And okay, I'm freezed. No, it's okay. It was like, and now is more frequent. And actually, our ranking contributed to inspiring the new national guidelines, as you previously said, Colette, for sustainable university canteens. This means that there is one official document that addresses all the canteens and the cafeterias to include at least one plant-based meal per day. And it includes also a tender model, so they can copy that. They don't even do much effort, so that it's guaranteed every day. And Mense per il Clima is our university campaign to raise awareness about the importance of protein transition in the students' community. And the campaign is still at an early stage because first we focused on doing this kind of photography, which is the ranking to address the institution, and then we are engaging the students, and we are facing with some difficulties. Maybe we can talk about this later. But what it's already clear for us now is that tasting events and workshops are a great way to engage the students, and they allow us to let them try new dishes, to talk about food in a different way. And this is especially effective when matched with an effective communication, both online and offline. So we have a lot to do, but what we learned is that we need to be more present and with a physical presence, not only an online presence, because these individuals can be very like alone, even if they're part of a group. So we have to build this sense of community, this sense of doing this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love the rankings and how that creates the competition to kind of really drive things. Everybody starts to want to be better than everyone else. You touched upon some of the difficulties. I'm just interested, what do you think are the most common barriers that you encounter when you're introducing climate-friendly plant-based meals in canteens, and how can the barriers be successfully addressed?
I'd say the main barriers are like a mix of skepticism and old kitchen habits. And it's strange to say that because, okay, Italy is known for their amazing food, but actually the canteen food is not that amazing that you can taste. In my experience, both students and the kitchen staff aren't willing to try new plant-based recipes, mostly because of biases and because they had a bad experience before, especially the chefs. So most cooks and chefs that are working in canteens aren't really into food innovation, as we can imagine in the restaurant field or so on. So they're really stuck to old habits, to old recipes, and usually they don't know how to properly cook plant-based recipes with plant-based proteins, or like tofu or tempeh, or even to give a new dish with the beans. Okay, so kitchen trainings are crucial to address this issue. And this summer we trained over more than 100 chefs on plant-based kitchen, and we help them to develop and to try new plant-based recipes which were easier and tastier to prepare. So we have the chefs issue, and the chefs trainings. I think it's the most important part to do this. I'm freezed. No, okay. Sometimes
You're
okay.
fine. You're fine.
Perfect. It's my laptop that is freezing myself. And then we have the student skepticism, which was kind of a surprise for me, because I thought, okay, the new generation are really into plant-based diets or are really curious. And then I figured that it wasn't really like that. So to boost the students' appetite for new flavors, we usually work with nudging techniques. Behavioral science shows us that every aspect of the environment is important to enhance the attention, like how the menu is written, which adjective I chose to describe the plant-based dish, where the plant-based options are displayed in the canteens, and so on. So we use, of course, these strategies, these little nudges, but the skepticism is really strong, and that means that even if we have a good, beautiful, and tasty recipe, it doesn't mean it will be successful, because maybe the students won't even try that. So nowadays, students in Italy are really they tend to stick to their old food habits, such as eating meat every day, or they avoid beans, and they're really frustrating, of course, because like they're active in the climate way, and then they don't connect these issues. And so we use tasting events, and tasting events are a good way to let them try new flavors and to help them to step out of their comfort zone. So to sum up, lasting change happens only when all parties, both chefs and students, feel part of the transformation, and see that their contribution really matters for creating a better future. So it's not just try this new recipe, but this new recipe that I developed to be part of the change, and it is made for you, and you, by eating that, can be part of this change together with us. So I think this can be our next goals. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Valentina. It all sounds very familiar to me, and yeah, you've got to put all these component parts together to make it work. I'm interested, what's been your most popular plant-based dish at universities that students have liked?
The most popular?
Yeah, what's most popular?
Currently, we have this cecina, which is like a flatbread but made of chickpea flour. So it's like a typical dish in some region of Italy, like Tuscany or Liguria, and it's good because it's traditional food. And with the new recipes, there is this lentil curry that was developed by our training chef, and it was one of the best recipe last year. So it was like, okay, they're the one of the lentil curry, so we can rely on them for the recipe. So yeah,
very good. You need to share these recipes with us all so we can copy them. Okay, thank you. Maja, it'd be great to run some questions by you next. So I'm just interested, what role does empathy as both a psychological and a practical tool play in food education and in fostering more conscious attitudes towards food and its wider impacts?
Well, we cannot really talk about empathy without talking about violence, unfortunately, because they are neurologically linked, they overlap in our brain, and they switch each other off. So if we stimulate empathy, violence is switched off, and if we stimulate violence, empathy is switched off. And it's the environment that activates them. And that's why empathy is so crucial also within the food education, because we as society, we have normalized violence towards people, towards animals, towards nature and the planet. And we have built economic system on this logic. And today we are also completely disconnected from every stage of our food production. And it's empathy that starting to close this gap of disconnection. And we at our Empathy-Based Society Institute, we are developing, among other things, also programs for purposeful development of empathy towards people, animals, nature, and the planet. And we are guiding participants through structured perspective-taking activities. They actually step in the shoes of others, whether these are animals in factory farming, farmers facing climate crisis, ecosystem, for example, a river filled with trash. And this type of techniques and experiences, they help also in the food context. For example, these empathic connections help us move from asking a question, what do I want to eat today, towards to what and who am I connected to when through my meal. And there is another thing that I would like to talk about within food education, and that is normalization of violence in the context of our school systems, particularly vocational training for butchers, because this is a school program that is present in many European countries as part of a traditional school system, and children can enroll in this program after they finish elementary school, which means at the age of 15. And in this program, they learn all the skills that butchers have, and among others, this is of course also killing of animals. So at the age of 15, they start to learn how to stun animals with guns, with electricity, with gas, how to slaughter them, how to bleed them out, how to cut them up with chainsaws. And research is showing that even for adult butchers, this work is causing significant psychological damage and mental health issues. But we need to look at this program also within the developmental phase of these teenagers, because we know that adolescent brain is undergoing the biggest reorganizational process of the life. And it's very important which kind of experiences, which kind of new behaviors are these young people subjected to. So we need to ask ourselves, what kind of school program have we created already? I mean, it's been going on for many, many years. But this is just to show how this normalization of violence, how we are so disconnected from animal suffering within our food system, that we consequently are completely disconnected also from the children within this process and their well-being. And this example shows another paradox, because when we have children that are killing and torturing animals, we consider this a mental health issue and a sign for potential future psychopathology. But when we teach children to do a job where they will kill animals for 8 hours a day, we consider it's perfectly okay to be part of the school system. And this is complete nonsense. And that's why it's so important that empathy is key to counter normalization of violence within food education and within food education.
Thank you, Maša. It's such important work that you're doing. Yeah, I feel like in the work that I'm doing, it's really removed and we don't get into these discussions. So it's wonderful to hear this is happening. I'm also interested from your sort of psychological perspective, what are the main internal or social obstacles that are preventing people from changing their eating habits, even when they have this knowledge, when they're informed about health and sustainability?
A few months ago, I was at the conference and the CEO of a successful plant-based company was asked a similar question. He was asked, how do we get people to buy more vegan food? And he said, after all these years in business, I can share one thing with you, that it's easier to convert people to another religion than it is for them to change what they eat. So yes, this is a huge challenge in front of us. And the question is, yes, why it is so difficult? And Valentina already tackled this point a little bit. Because I think, in my opinion, it's so difficult because it's never just about food. Food is so deeply connected to everything, so many things, so many aspects of our lives, whether it's our emotions, our community, our culture, our identity. And there is some fear, deep ingrained fear, that if there's something changes, people will lose some parts of them. And yes, there are several psychological and social obstacles that have been recognized that affect or restrict people from changing. And number one, for sure, is taste and pleasure, because taste has been recognized as number one driver for food choice, and familiar flavors are connected to nostalgia, are connected to reward systems in our brains. And people are afraid that if they will change something in this regard, that they will lack also all other consequences. Another thing is cognitive dissonance, which is very popular lately when we have two conflicting beliefs. For example, I love animals and at the same time I love meat. There is this discomfort that arises, and instead of changing something about it, we usually just justify them both so that we don't have to change anything. And the next, another thing is so-called willful ignorance, which is a step before cognitive dissonance. This is a stage where I prefer even not to know what is going on, so that I will not have to deal with unpleasant emotions. So it's more in the light of like ignorance is bliss in this context. Then there is identity. Identity is a huge thing, because also regarding food choices can be connected to our identity. We connect them to who we are, through food we connect to our culture, family, possibly also values, and changing them can feel for some people like losing part of them. And so also in politics, when they researched, they realized that when some political beliefs come to the level of identity, it's really difficult to change them. And I think we are facing the same thing regarding food. And then there are habits, because we are eating is part of routine and we are creatures of routine, and exactly, we really don't want to change. We like to think as little as possible, just to go with the flow that is familiar to us. There are many others, but I think I'm really by the end of my time frame. But I would like just to point out one thing more. All these things that I listed now, they're all about me, again, anthropocentric, How does this affect my taste? How does this affect my habits, my identity, my comfort? So I circle back to this anthropocentric frame of thinking. And I think if you really want to start changing some really significant long-term changes, we also need to start address and shift this narrative into connection, into community, into belonging, into the bigger picture.
Thank you very much, Maša. Super interesting. Yeah, it's very complicated. We all have a lot of work to do here. I think we don't have Emily still. I'm just double checking. No, we won't. So we will skip to Lorena, please. So, Lorena, in your experience, which topics around the impact of food on human and planetary health tend to surprise or deeply resonate with students the most?
That's a great question. What resonates the most with students, based on our outreach, is of course, the intersection between personal health and planetary health. For example, many students, for the first time, are able to make the connection between their dietary choices and certain chronic diseases that see in their close circle, right? When you think about type 2 diabetes, obesity, heart disease, or certain cancers that are so predominant in today's society, chances are that that kid knows someone in their peer circle or their family circle that is suffering from that chronic disease. So that is the first step of awareness that we realize, wow, they made the connection because they talk about it. And that makes them feel also a little bit helpless, right? Because then you realize, it could be me too, right? I'm not exempt of not following that path. Of course, they're deeply, deeply struck by the environmental footprint of industrial animal agriculture when they learn about it through our presentations. After all, they're inheriting this planet. They know it. And like Maša said, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? But we can't stay ignorant, and we don't want people to stay ignorant. And I think nobody wants to stay ignorant on purpose. So when you're part of a group and you are receiving that information as a group, you are not singled out. You suddenly realize, I'm part of this group that is receiving this information, and it's concerning, right? Some students are deeply, deeply concerned about biodiversity loss, for example. It's depending where they live, their cultures, right? Others are very worried about climate change or water usage, etc. And I think that realization is what makes them consider the rest of the information that we usually partake, right? We usually give them bad news first, and then the good news, because we always want them to end up on a good note. So when students realize that the decisions that they're making can affect positively or negatively the health, it's sort of like an aha moment, right? We've seen it through the years. They go from feeling powerless to feeling powerful, because for the first time, all those things that seem completely out of their control, they are now becoming a little bit part of what they can become, right? Society often tells us who we need to be. But I think the more information we partake in the kindest, more respectful way, right? I think we start receiving the message that, I want to become who I want to be, right? And we know that message needs to be imparted many, many times before it's even received. That's why I think that food education should be accessible and should be part of every school, every club, every nursing home, every book club and mom's club, etc., because everyone can partake of this information in very easy, relatable ways. So I think that kind of sums it up.
Thank you, Lorena. It's interesting. I would think, looking back many decades to being a young person, that I wouldn't think of health as being, you would imagine you would need to make changes when you're a bit older, and that it wouldn't be so important to you at that young age. But that's really interesting that young people are thinking that way.
I mean, they feel incredibly invincible, right?
Yeah, you do.
But that doesn't mean they're not worried because one of their parents might have high blood pressure or things like that. And nowadays we see peers developing type 2 diabetes very early. Hence, we don't call it adult onset diabetes anymore. So I think we're changing a lot. And also the fact that when you and I were younger, we didn't have the information at the tip of our fingers. And that makes them grow up faster and being exposed to the reality of harsh life much earlier too.
Yeah, I'm glad we have the program that we do. So thank you. Now, obviously, this is a huge, vast global program that you're leading. Do you notice significant cultural differences in food literacy and awareness between different countries? And how do you sort of adapt to that?
Oh, absolutely. Cultural differences are vast and significant depending on their life circumstances, their background, their territory. Currently, we have learners in 65 plus countries. And what we call learners, or who we call learners, I'm sorry, are anyone who's 8 and up. So we have kids as young as 8 years old and adults in their hundreds who watch our presentations, depending on what stage of their life is and what it is that they want to do with this information. Adults usually worry a lot about their health and their legacy. So the planet is important to them too, is what we've seen. So what we notice is that some cultures are more aware about environmental issues, while other cultures come with a baggage of traditional foods and culture. So they're more focused on food and health. And that's why it's so important to meet them at where they are. What we do is that we adapt, we ground our presentations on global statistics. So everyone can relate no matter what, right? They're part of this beautiful planet that we all inhabit. Planet A, there's no plan B, right? But coupled with that, with those global statistics, we make sure we give examples that are tied to their localities, whether it's case studies or some environmental information, or if there's a specific chronic disease that is more abundant. And of course, food, right? The food we feature to our Latin American audience is not the same food that we feature to our US audience, for example. We also make sure that the translations are not just linguistic, but cultural, because those nuances, those differences matter deeply. We don't always get it right, but we try our best. And I think that our different audiences can tell that we're doing our best, because we want our learners to feel represented and respected. We celebrate cultural differences, right? Because we're part of this melting pot that makes us so interesting and so valuable. And lastly, we want to make sure that no matter where they are, that we provide tools that have to do with their culture and accessibility, right? Not everyone can access healthy food. So how do we teach those people to be more inventive, right? More to use their ingenuity. We connect them with food banks, et cetera, et cetera. So we do take care very much on the differences of our audience because one size does not fit all in this case.
Thank you so much, Lorena. That's fabulous. I'm just going to do a quick shout out to our wonderful audience. If you have any questions for the panelists, please do pop them in the Q&A. We have a little bit of extra time. We're ahead of time because we're missing one of our panelists, so more time for your questions. We will move on to Nadia, our last panelist. So Nadia, what are the key takeaways that have emerged from the Good Canteen pilot? What's worked well? What still needs refining to implement plant-based meals in schools?
Yes, thank you for this question. In our Good Canteen pilot, worked well. The first key factor is the strong political commitment, because our city council in 2023 approved a food policy strategy. In this formal document, there are 8 objectives, but one is for promoting sustainable school canteens, but for all citizens. This is important for because we are a public administration. Second one is we plan this pilot with all partners. We worked with a provider of school canteens. We work with the Association of Farmers. We work also with head of school vegan nutritionists, because we heard their doubts. We collected their proposal. We collect also needs for this change. And this big partnership, it's important for if you want to change something, and this change during in the time in different years. And also the great factor is the community engagement, because we organize, yes, educational activities to share knowledge about plant-based menu, but also we organize many practical activities. The parents, the teachers, they cooked in our school kitchen center. They cooked the same dishes in their children find in the green menu. And during the session of show cooking, they cook, but also they ask to our nutritionist, the dads, or they ask how it is possible that my son eat this kind of dish. Our nutritionist suggests some tips for their children. It is an important engagement, peer-to-peer. It is because we organize many kitchen sessions. Yeah, in my opinion, it is the best practice, because the parents know better its menu, and they are happy to become an active role in this change. Yes, for our it's the key factor is this. And we have to improve we want to continue the dialogue with the local farmers, because with the climate change events, in many times we don't have enough local product for our green menu. And we want to continue the dialogue, because it's too difficult for them serve our school canteens. We want to continue this menu, organic, local, and vegan. Another question is, we reach this goal because we receive much funds from the European Commission. Yes, the municipality now continue these activities, but the funds, it's not like the quantity like European Commission. Like less funds, we organize less activities, but we continue. For example, this year we started from a kindergarten classroom, and we have the same active role, but the activities are less than the last 2 years. And we want to continue. Also, for the communication, maybe sometimes we don't communicate well our pilot, because it's important to raise awareness also the citizens, not only for the parents but also grandparents and the general citizen. Yes, maybe we want to improve and become more stronger message for the citizen in general. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadia.
Complaint.
I wondered, you mentioned organic, local, and vegan, and I'm just interested in the language and the use of the word vegan. And is that the language that you use in Bergamo, or there's always lots of discussion around whether we talk about vegan food or plant-based or plant-rich? But I just, I just wondered how that works where you are.
We introduced this plant-based menu named green menu, because in Italy, green is one person thinks, oh, environment, healthy. For the name is green menu, but it is vegan because it is vegetarian. All ingredients are vegetarian. But we named this with another words for the Italian people. Is green is for the environment, is for healthy. For us, the name is green menu. Climate friendly, yes, it's the subtitle, but for us it's a vegan, plant-based menu. It's a vegan, but we change the name. Yeah.
Perfect. I just was curious. And your work shows that local food policy obviously creates real change. What other actions is Bergamo taking to extend sustainable food practices beyond schools and into public restaurants and beyond?
Yeah, we extended the green menu project also for bar and restaurants and collective canteens, like canteens of the Hospital of Bergamo and the canteens of University of Bergamo. This project is planning with the local health agency. And when, for example, I explain what is our green menu for bar and restaurant. One restaurant want to adhere of our project. They fill one declaration. In this declaration, they declare that they, in their menu, they offer in each courses one vegan option, from starter to dessert. It is mandatory criteria to adhere of our green menu. After, we also add other environment criteria, like decrease plastic or avoid plastic, and for example, put a nerve portion in the middle of table, a nerve portion about bread to avoid waste, and the other criteria. But the base criteria to adhere of our school green menu is to propose every day for the consumers, citizens, and so on, vegan course, vegan dishes for each courses. If they declare this action, they receive from the municipality a logo, green menu. They can put this logo on their windows, and also they receive a logo for the menu, because they put this logo in order to define their dishes. They receive also flyers that maybe it is like less copies, because we are climate friendly, but also we send PDF flyers, and in this flyer we explain in very easy way how it's important to decrease animal protein and increase vegetable protein. It's for health with the data. It's not so many data. It's simple to read for whole citizen, and also for the environment. It is a flyer, little flyer they have in their shops or restaurants or bars. And also for the school collective canteens, we share our public tender, because it's important when a school, hospital, or a university change the provider, or they publish the public tender. It's important to have some criteria. After this, you can introduce a plant-based menu. we support them. We share the document, we answer their doubts or questions, and yes, it is a shared knowledge and the documents also. Yeah. And the second one, the last, we organize every year a big festival for citizens, named Agriculture and Right to Food. In this festival, we have different events, workshop, farmer markets, conferences for different targets. This year, for example, the topic is protein transition. We organize, for example, one event with a vegan food blogger, and a wine events, for example, wine and vegan food blogger and we organize a big conference to promote our school canteens, plant-based menu, and so on for different targets. This year we focus this big festival to decrease animal protein in diet of our citizens.
I love the idea of the festival, making it fun and bringing everyone together. And wine too, that also sounds positive.
Because wine attracts young people or general people. And when they drink a good wine of produced in Bergamo province, also they see our vegan food blogger, they explain, they make something very quickly, and they taste some vegan options, vegan dishes. Vegan snack, it depends, I don't know which is it. It is a surprise. It
sounds wonderful. I'd like to come along to this festival. I'm sure we all would. And I'm also, just a final quick question, what's the most popular of your plant-based dishes in schools? What's the winner?
The winner K factor or the winner dishes?
The winner dishes, yeah.
The winner dishes is lentils balls. They love it, lentils. Our children love lentils in all kind of dishes. Yeah.
So we've got the lentil balls and we've got the lentil curry for the students.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lentil soup also.
Okay, the lentils. This is good. This is what we need to be serving. Thank you. Thanks, Nadia. That's great. So that brings us to question and answer time. We have a few questions. Please, if anybody has any more, pop them in the Q&A. I will start to work through. Thank you to Eleanor for answering the broccoli question already. That's very handy, saved us a job. Emily is here. Sorry, apologies. Let me skip to you. Emily, I can't see you. Here we go. Hi.
I am here. I'm so sorry. My
That's
computer
okay.
for the time difference, so all my alerts have been an hour behind, and I only just realised. So I can only apologise for being so late, and I hope the discussion's been really lovely so far.
It's been wonderful, and we're glad you're here. And we will, let's. I've already introduced you. We'll skip the general question, and I'll ask you your kind of specific questions, and then we'll go to questions from the audience. So, Emily, what does vegan inclusive healthcare look like in practice, and why do you believe it should be a standard part of the curriculum for vocational courses?
Yeah, so we've been doing a huge amount of work on the knowledge gap that exists for healthcare professionals at the moment when it comes to veganism, that unfortunately does still exist to quite a large degree. So to us, vegan inclusive healthcare looks like providers understanding that veganism is an ethical standpoint, and actually in the UK it's protected under equality law. I believe that's the same for other countries in the EU as well. And providers need to understand that that comes with a responsibility to be knowledgeable about the needs of their vegan clients and patients, and be able to advise them in line with those beliefs. And we know that that's not currently the case at the moment. So we did a survey of our members and supporters last year to see what their experiences were like accessing NHS care in the last 3 years or so. And actually 59% of people reported that they'd had negative experiences related to their vegan beliefs. And that included kind of a lack of understanding from healthcare professionals, and even sort of prejudice or hostility towards those decisions, as well as not being considered in terms of the treatment plan. So whether that's diet, medication, other lifestyle changes. So we know that there's obviously a really big education gap in terms of training for healthcare professionals in the UK. And that being trained in vegan inclusive practice could make a really big difference to not only sort of reducing the stigma that vegans sometimes face in healthcare, but also ensuring that their needs are adequately met in those spaces as well. So we don't want people to be anxious about accessing healthcare and about the response that they're going to get from their healthcare providers. And actually, we find that even so, my profession, dietitians, we also had a look at the knowledge of dietitians, and we're considered like the experts clinically in food and nutrition. Only kind of 2/3 of those were aware of veganism's protected characteristic. And only a third felt very confident in tailoring their practice, so the dietary recommendations that they were making for patients coming into their care to vegan diets. And that was kind of a gap both in terms of the nutritional aspects and also the ethical side of what vegans choose to eat. So I know that other people have been working on sort of plant-based nutrition and have found in the healthcare space that actually plant-based sometimes gets a bit more traction and a bit less resistance than saying vegan. But as the Vegan Society, we're really underlining that actually this is also an equality and diversity issue, and that we want to make sure that we're saying vegan to healthcare professionals and making them aware of their responsibilities and patients' needs to actually reduce that stigma and improve that understanding, and then ultimately improve kind of the outcomes that people are getting when they're going to see their healthcare providers. So yeah, vegan inclusive nutrition education kind of looks like addressing the potential stigmas that might exist, the pre-existing beliefs, kind of exploring healthcare providers' gaps in their knowledge that they've identified, and making sure that professionals feel confident when they come out of their university education, when they come across veganism in practice, that they're able to tailor those treatment plans and make sure that they're stacking up to those kind of standards of diversity and inclusion as well. So I think as the Vegan Society, we're kind of a little bit unique in coming in from more the equality and diversity angle of inclusive practice rather than kind of the health benefits of plant-based nutrition, which of course we talk about a lot as well. But I think there's a gap in addressing how people are able to support patients who are already vegan. And obviously you can be vegan and have a multitude of maybe different health conditions, and it's about being able to be flexible and meet the needs of that population. So that's kind of what vegan inclusive healthcare looks like to us.
Thank you, Emily. And what kind of reactions do you typically face in healthcare and educational institutions when you're advocating for vegan inclusive teaching, and how do you respond to skepticism?
Yeah, so I mean, I think unfortunately there still is quite a lot of skepticism and sort of resistance, again, particularly around the word vegan. I mean, other organisations doing great work in the space in terms of normalising plant-based diets have kind of found that the term plant-based has less resistance. So I'm definitely finding that people feel like the word vegan is something that you can't say when you're kind of talking to healthcare professionals. But actually, as I've said, I feel like that's really, really important in reducing the stigma, making sure that professionals are aware that there's a difference and there's that ethical stance that kind of will also make differences, for example, what kind of medications are acceptable for somebody. So I feel like there is resistance to the word vegan, and what I'd like us to do is have that inclusive practice and teaching that kind of strips back that stigma and that resistance to talking about veganism as it is. I think there's still a lot of prevailing myths about the importance of animal products in people's diets. Obviously, I mean, even the British Dietetic Association and the American Academy of Dietetics are quite clear that vegan diets, fully vegan diets, can support healthy living at all life stages. But there's still a lot of prevailing myths among healthcare professionals that we need some kind of level of animal products. So that feeling that, oh, even if we're moving towards plant-based, but don't we need a little bit of this, a little bit of that? And I feel like those existing beliefs and biases sometimes take a little while to unpick, and particularly when healthcare professionals are extremely busy and maybe they're not kind of up to date with the research in plant-based because they're really having to focus their time and energy on very specific areas of development. So what we want to do with that is to make it accessible to have this training. So make sure we're engaging with professionals in ways that kind of brings the learning to them in a way that they don't have to kind of go and research that whole knowledge base and kind of update those assumptions. And I think that we are finding that there is an appetite for that from healthcare professionals. I mean, when we put out our dietetics survey, what we did find is that 93% of people said, yes, we would like training on veganism and how to improve our clinical practice. So we know that people do really want to address that knowledge gap as well, which is really reassuring, because sometimes I think we think a lot about the barriers, but there's actually a lot of appetite for learning and supporting people more effectively in the vegan community, which is obviously great. And also bringing that kind of standard training into the university curriculum, and that kind of ultimately I say it's kind of like my evil plan is to like bring inclusive, vegan inclusive training into all the universities in the UK that do firstly sort of dietetics courses. And that's something that we're working on, and actually finding that as well as dietitians who are already in practice, who are showing that they'd like more information on this, student dietitians sort of more anecdotally are very, very keen to learn more about veganism. So we've done quite a lot of work so far with universities in the UK, kind of offering this proactive teaching package that allows them to kind of integrate vegan inclusive healthcare, and that we can come in and deliver that. So again, kind of reducing those time and kind of, I guess, entry costs of starting to make the curriculum more inclusive to vegans. And there's been a lot of interest in that, and a lot of universities have said, actually, yeah, our students are really curious about this, they'd like to learn more. And that's been across dietetics courses, but also other areas like sports nutrition. People are, yeah, keen to have that knowledge, which is really, really reassuring. And we've also been able to sort of offer placements with the Vegan Society for Student Dietitians. So hoping that kind of through starting with dietitians and getting that vegan inclusive healthcare in, we know that dietitians would like to have this training. There's definitely the knowledge base within our nutrition team at the Vegan Society to sort of address those myths, to talk more about those ethical nuances, to talk more about the sort of diversity and inclusion criteria that they need to be meeting with their patients. And actually, yeah, in some circles there seems to be resistance, but actually there's quite a lot of hope there, and people are very open to us coming in and talking to them. And I'm hoping that through sort of talking to dietitians first, we're getting that food and nutrition education. Then when dietitians are going out into workplaces where, you know, working in multidisciplinary teams, they're talking then to doctors and nurses and to other healthcare professionals, and kind of spreading that knowledge outwards. Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, I think the key thing there for me, well, with everything that everyone is doing here, is making it as simple as possible for everybody, that it's an easy choice, whatever it is we're trying to get them to do, make it simple and ideally make it free. Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to join us. That's wonderful.
Thank you for bearing with me. I'm really glad that I managed to pick up with you.
Not at all. So we've got time, a few minutes for some questions. I just wanted to answer Jules's question about butchery courses at the age of 15. I think that was Maša who talked about that. So I'm guessing that is a Slovenian thing, but perhaps Maša, you'd like to respond. Maybe it's in other places.
No, it's actually not only Slovenian thing. I wrote a paper on this, and I researched through the European Union. I remember now, it was a few years ago that I did this. I remember UK doesn't have this program, but majority of European countries have this as part of vocational training. I know many countries changed in the past years the school system, so now it's called, I don't know, something food-related occupations. And it was actually quite difficult to get information on these courses, because somehow on some level they are aware that it's problematic. But it's not only Slovenian, no. Majority of European countries have these programs.
Oh, thank you for clarifying. I just have a question. We touched at the very beginning around the sort of influence of social media and that kids are all online these days. And I just wondered, just a really quick, like, couple of lines from each of you perhaps on what kind of role do you think social media influences and people creating content can play in sort of shaping food literacy? Can they be our allies and help us with these kind of ethical messages that we're aiming to promote? I'll let you unmute and let me know what you think, or if anybody in particular wants to answer.
I'd love to answer.
Go for it, Lorena.
Work with so many students and they immediately say, but this person and this person, we're like, who's that? An influencer. So I think that their role is crucial in promoting a plant-forward diet, plant-based diet, or whatever every program is doing right here. The problems arise when influencers are not aligned with evidence-based information. It's a double-edged sword, right? Misinformation can spread like wildfire. So I think the strategy should be to partner as much as possible with evidence-based interested influencers that can be the storytellers, the content producers, because kids sometimes trust them more than they trust information from traditional institutions. So I'm all for it. I just think we need to do our homework and allow those that support science-based evidence information to come and tell the story and reach as many people as possible. That's my take.
Love it. Thank you, Lorena. Would anybody else like to say anything on that point?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think this is a really big problem at the moment that's kind of challenging evidence-based nutrition is actually that a lot of people are getting their nutrition and health information online because people want to have that accessible information to empower themselves to change things for their health. But actually, I think I read a statistic that 92% of information on social media sites such as TikTok, when it comes to nutrition, is in direct contravention to guidelines. And actually, about 60% of people who are the kind of spreaders of this information don't actually have any qualifications in health and nutrition. And I think this is something that it's really difficult to stop mis and disinformation because it's so expansive and these platforms are not always regulated in that kind of very, very nuanced way. I think it's important for healthcare professionals and other people who know the evidence base around nutrition to enter this space and actually have more of a voice in this space. And actually, sometimes it's about, I think it's of health entertainment is the term that I've heard as well. People want to be entertained by the content as well. So it's about having the charisma and leading with that energy as well as presenting the facts. And I think as healthcare professionals, we're not really trained in storytelling. And that's the thing that you just said, storytelling. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, is actually really embodying that story and pulling people in and making sure that we're engaging people and then kind of following it up with those facts and kind of making plant-based nutrition and vegan nutrition, and obviously I think nutrition science is extremely interesting, that's why I got into it as a career, but making it kind of interesting and very engaging to people. And I've seen some healthcare professionals doing that really well in the space with kind of like reaction videos and videos that just are very visually engaging and have snippets of information that pull people in really quickly. So I think actually healthcare professionals have historically been a bit discouraged from using social media, but I think that's kind of being left behind as we move forward in this age of how we process and receive information. And as healthcare professionals, I think we need to enter that space with that energy and kind of bring those facts and almost play the same game as influencers are playing. Leading with energy and following of facts is what I've been thinking about a lot recently. I think that could be really helpful.
Interesting, Emily. Yeah, if you can't beat them, you have to join them, I suppose. What about in Italy, any of our Italian friends, or Slovenia? Anything you'd like to add on the subject of social media?
Okay, in Italy, actually, we have really good community because there is this vegan doctor nutritionist and she is Silvia Goggi, and she's really clear and developed a lot of tools like podcasts and apps and other than social media. So we rely a lot on her because she really is super clear. But I think the problem is that you can be a doctor or an influencer or like working a lot on the social media because it drains a lot of energy. So even asking them to be more present on the social media is a lot to ask. So maybe we should helping our friend influencer, like plant-based and vegan ones, to spread the good messages and the correct messages, like with workshop, and like to help them to spread the good information, to avoid misinformation, I think, but it's complicated.
Yeah, I really totally agree. Valentina, would anyone else? Maja?
Yes, I would just like to add one thing. I agree with everybody with your suggestions. And I was thinking now that we are all adults, we all have this information. So I think it would be good if we would work together with young people. And I'm thinking now elementary school, because they have completely different needs and expectations and what speaks to them. So I think on this level also how to convey information to them, that we work with young people also in the content creation, not that we come from the adult space, but together with them.
Thank you, Maja. Nadia, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah. For example, in Bergamo now, we want to implement the same project, the same pilot to the children, for the young people. And for young people, we use the social campaign, the social activities to change their mind. We will start in the next year, and to change their knowledge about plant-based dishes. Yeah, but only the activities is the most are social media campaign.
Thank you, Nadia. I'm conscious of time, and we started a little bit. Yeah, we're running out of time basically. So I'm going to just wrap up. Sorry if we didn't get to all of the questions, but perhaps we can respond separately to those. So I just wanted to thank everybody for being here today, for joining us this evening, wherever you have connected from. Thank you so much to our panelists, Valentina, Maja, Emily, Lorena and Nadia. It's been a really insightful and, for me, very inspiring session all on all aspects of food education. I hope those who've joined us have found it really interesting. I'd encourage you to reach out to any of us if there's anything you'd like to follow up on. Find us on LinkedIn or wherever you can find us, and we'll be happy to help you. And just to let you know, tomorrow's session, this is the last session of today, but day 3 begins tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central European time. We have Tomato Gate, who really controls the prices. So I would encourage you to sign up for that session if you haven't already. And thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you another time. Thanks so much, everyone.